The words cracked through the ballroom like a whip. "You let a woman like her touch crystal glass? What are we running here, a charity?" The insult sliced sharper than the silver cutlery clinking against porcelain, louder than the string music drifting beneath the chandeliers. Laughter followed, polished and rehearsed, the kind of laughter that hid cruelty behind elegance. Aaliyah Brooks stood still, her tray balanced in steady hands, her black uniform blending into the golden glow of Beverly Hills wealth. In that room, she wasn't seen as a woman. She was a prop, a shadow moving silently between designer gowns and diamond watches. She placed the glass gently on the table, her hands unshaking, her posture unbroken. Then she spoke. Not in English, but in Arabic. Her voice rang clear, poised, and precise. The crystal does not define the worth of the one who holds it. It only reflects the dignity of the one who drinks from it. Silence thundered louder than laughter. Every face turned. The billionaire who had mocked her, Karim al-Najjar, blinked as though he had witnessed the impossible. A young black waitress speaking his own language with more grace than he had ever mustered. It was more than a reply. It was a shift in power. Aaliyah had not raised her voice, but she had cracked open the room. She had not grown up among chandeliers and marble floors. Aaliyah's story began in Atlanta, Georgia, in a small apartment stacked with books rather than luxuries. Her father, a retired Navy officer, taught her discipline, structure, and strength. Her mother, a linguistics professor, gave her stories. From her, Aaliyah learned that words could be armor, that names carried legacy, and that silence could wound just as much as it could heal. By 10 years old, she was fluent in French and reading Arabic poetry by candlelight when the power bill went unpaid. Their home might not have had much, but it overflowed with language, with meaning. At 17, Aaliyah won a scholarship to one of the country's top programs in language and diplomacy. Professors called her a prodigy. Classmates called her the quiet storm. She corrected diplomats with elegance, recited poetry in Arabic with fire, and spoke across 5 languages as easily as others breathed. She was destined for a future in international halls of power. But life does not bend easily to brilliance. 2 weeks before her internship began, her mother collapsed. The diagnosis was swift and cruel, stage 4 cancer. Aaliyah walked away from her scholarship without hesitation. Her mother came first. The world of diplomacy could wait. Bills could not. She worked where she could, barista, tutor, assistant, before landing as a waitress at La Maison Celeste, a fine dining palace where the rich went to be seen. The job paid her mother's medical bills, but no one saw the scholar behind the apron. To them, she was only service, not brilliance. That night's gala shimmered like a crown jewel under the California sky. The Rosemont Grand Ballroom glowed with chandeliers, marble floors, and flowers that cost more than rent. Guests floated in gowns and tuxedos draped in jewels perfumed in arrogance. Karim al-Najjar, billionaire CEO of Aligar Energy, was the star of the evening, surrounded by Hollywood producers, politicians, and moguls. Aaliyah wasn't even meant to be there. A co-worker had called out sick, and she had been pulled in at the last moment. Rent was due. Her mother's medication was running low. She tied her curls into a neat bun, straightened her uniform, and walked into the lion's den with her tray steady and her soul tucked behind her eyes. She approached table 9, Karim's table, where wealth and cruelty mingled in gold-trimmed laughter. It started small, as cruelty often does. A woman in champagne silk whispered, just loud enough, "Look at her hair, like she's hiding a bird's nest." Laughter followed. Another man, swirling his wine, asked, "Think she understands us?" The chuckles pierced. Aaliyah said nothing, placing napkins with precise care. She had learned long ago that invisibility often lay in perfection. But then Karim leaned back, his tie loose, his tone smooth yet heavy with disdain. In Arabic, he mocked her, likening her to field workers dressed up to serve crystal. His words cut, cruel and deliberate. Laughter swelled again, but Aaliyah did not bow. She did not break. She placed the glass beside his plate and straightened. Then her words poured out in Arabic. Not the casual dialect of Karim's insult, but the refined elegance of classical speech. Her sentence struck the air like a bell, calm yet undeniable. Silence fell, heavy and unshakable. For the first time, they looked at her, not as decoration, not as invisible, but as someone who could not be ignored. Kareem smirked, trying to recover, but others at the table pressed on. Victor Morrow, a well-known economist, leaned forward with a challenge disguised as curiosity. Switching to formal Arabic, he asked a dense academic question about North African economics, expecting her to stumble. But Aaliyah did not flinch. She answered slowly, clearly, citing trade data, World Bank reports, and patterns of post-colonial growth. Her mastery silenced the challenge. Victor could only nod in reluctant respect. Around the table, whispers stirred. Who was this waitress? Then Aaliyah reached into her apron and revealed a worn envelope. Its seal gleamed faintly with the gold crest of Aligar Energy Group. Kareem's eyes narrowed. It was a scholarship letter signed by him years ago, offering her a place in his mentorship program. She had never accepted it. Her mother's illness had stolen that chance. But she held it up as proof, not of opportunity lost, but of how easily dignity can be overlooked. If I had walked into your office dressed like this, she asked softly, would you have opened the door? No one answered. They didn't need to. The silence was an admission. Kareem's daughter, Layla, broke it first. She stood, her chair scraping against the marble, and walked toward Aaliyah. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. She apologized, not just for her father, but for herself, for all the times she had stayed silent while others were dismissed. One by one, others followed. A diplomat, a silver-haired businessman, a young woman near the back, even an actor. Not everyone rose, but the room had shifted. The smirks had soured. The arrogance had cracked. Aaliyah had not asked for their defense, but her dignity had drawn it forth. Not all hearts changed. Kareem tried to reclaim the room, dismissing her as nothing more than a waitress with clever words. But his voice wavered and his pride faltered. Then Layla revealed something more, a letter her late mother, a professor of linguistics, had once written. In it, she praised Aaliyah's gift with languages, her poise under pressure, her brilliance. Aaliyah had been remembered even then as someone destined for greatness. The room gasped, Kareem paling under the weight of his late wife's words. Aaliyah accepted the letter with quiet grace, then returned to her work. She did not need triumph. She needed only truth. By morning, the moment had spread across the world. Someone had filmed her words and the video went viral. Millions watched as a young black waitress spoke with dignity that silenced billionaires. Hashtags lit up. Celebrities shared it. Activists praised it. Donations poured into a scholarship fund created in her name. Meanwhile, Kareem's empire began to shake. Sponsors pulled out, journalists dug into his past, and the myth of his untouchable charm cracked. Aaliyah never sought fame. She never gave speeches or interviews. She simply showed up for her next shift, tray steady in her hands. When asked, she said only, I didn't do it to go viral. I just didn't want to be silent anymore. Her words, and the silence that followed them, had already traveled further than she ever imagined. Children left drawings of superheroes with curly hair at the restaurant's host stand. Strangers sent letters of thanks. A little girl once pointed at her through the glass and whispered, That's the lady who speaks all the languages. Aaliyah smiled softly. She didn't need confetti or parades. Victory looked different. Sometimes it was a folded letter kept safe in your pocket. Sometimes it was a room finally silenced by truth. Sometimes it was the peace of knowing you had not let dignity slip from your hands. For Aaliyah Brooks, that was enough.